I want you guys to remember in your lives at a time you got really sick when you were young. I need you to remember that. A time when you were really sick, where you really couldn't do anything. You were sick. Anybody ever have one of those moments? Like you had a bad flu? Anybody ever have the bad flu? A bad flu. You couldn't do anything with a bad flu, right? You guys remember? And then, do you remember the day you felt better? You remember when you felt better? And you were so happy you felt better, because when you have the flu, it's miserable. It is incredibly miserable, and you can't do anything but endure it. And at first, you're like, oh, I don't want this. And it gets worse and worse and worse. And you're dealing with all these rough circumstances. But the day you feel better, isn't it like a brand new lease on life? Brand new lease on life. When you feel better, you even look at life differently. Because I'm going to show you something. Remember before you got sick in your adult years, how boring the world got for some of you, how disgusting it became for others, how much of a torment still for others. And then all of a sudden, if you could have left the world at that time, you would have. But then something happens to where you get really sick. Prior to that sickness, you didn't really like the way things were going anyway. And then you become sick, very sick. But when the sickness leaves, your attitude about your life is different, at least for a little while. How many understand that? It's like moving from one house to another. You're so happy to get the new place because everything is new to you. You have such plans for it. But then, after a while, it seems like the same troubles you had in the old place, they're in the new place. Right? Because we get bored with things, don't we? And we start seeing the same thing over and over again, don't we? And then all of a sudden, a problem comes. That problem is so incredibly rough. You start forgetting about all these mundane things in life, right? And the problem seems to get worse. The more, as you get older, these problems, they get longer. But when the problem is over, it's like a brand new lease on life. In other words, when the problem is over, you begin to appreciate what you did not appreciate before. Correct? After a sickness, you appreciate what you did not appreciate before. Right? It's like going through a power outage. If you have a power outage and you can no longer use electricity, you start looking around at everything that plugs in and you say, this is just junk. What happens if they go out forever? Because Christians, they think like that. You start looking around at all these devices that are just taking up space because they're doing nothing. The lights don't work now. Nothing works. But then if you go a day, 2 days, 3 days with no power, you really begin to rethink your life. And you'll start missing some of the conveniences. Then when the power's restored again, what do you end up doing? You're so happy. Aren't you? Isn't that how it works? You're so happy the power is restored. So you have a problem, and you don't really understand the nature of the problem, but then when the problem is resolved, you become highly thankful. But prior to the problem, you have plenty of complaints. After the problem, your complaints are gone. Somebody understand what I'm talking about? Now, why? Now, your Father in heaven is the one that permits the problems in the first place. Don't you think for one day that they just happen on their own? Nope, they're fine-tuned to you. Don't ever think it just happened. It did not just happen. The Lord is working something with you. No, what's happening to you was purposed to happen to you. It's like fertilizer. Because you're trying to yield fruit, but you can also become rotten. And your Father is certainly cultivating this harvest. And he knows every single stalk and what it needs. And he will apply what he needs to apply so that you'll be perfect in the end. Yep, I use that word, perfect. So we have these hiccups in life, right? Do you think of a plant? If we could understand foliage, do you really think that these fruit trees, they have to be pruned, or what happens if they're not pruned? Anybody know? The nutrients that could go to good fruit are wasted on these bad limbs, and so the yield is not high. But if you prune it, the nutrients are redirected. Nothing is wasted. And the fruit is so much better. But if a tree had a personality and had a mouth, what do you think it would say with you stepping over there to cut off something of it? Cutting off its limbs. You think it like that? No, it wouldn't. That tree would say, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Don't you cut me up like that." It wouldn't understand. And when you cut it off, and this will help you, and that tree would start crying and smack you with another limb if it could, because it hurts. But the entire purpose of a fruit tree is to yield fruit. The purpose of a fruit tree, right? Its end purpose is not to provide shade for anything below it. That's not what it's for. It's not to just stand there and look pretty either. That's not what it's for. It's to yield life-giving fruit. And if it does not yield fruit, it does not contribute to the life forms on the planet. Therefore, it's no good for anything, because a fruit tree cannot become something else. An apple tree can only be an apple tree. It can't be anything else. And if it does not yield apples, and you don't need an umbrella, it's going to be firewood, isn't it? See how the scriptures in the Bible mirror practical things? They also mirror your life. Because we're pruned all the time. Things are chopped off. Sicknesses come, situations come, and we don't like them one bit. But that's our Father. Jesus said the Father is the husbandman. Jesus is the vine. Right? That stalk, and we're grafted into it. And a pruning will take place, and that God is doing that. Because he knows what you really are. An apple tree does not know it's an apple tree. It has no idea it's an apple tree. All it knows is that it is what it is. Yielding apples is natural to it, so it's not even surprised, nor is it moved. But those who eat the apple can appreciate what it is, but the apple tree does not appreciate itself. No more than you know what you are. But your yield is imperative for others. You don't know that yet. All you know is that you're facing issues and problems and sicknesses and circumstances. You don't know why. Don't you think it's an accident? Nope, it's purposed. And if it's purposed, then your Father has just visited you. He just pruned you. Why is that? Because he knows how important you are to everything else he has put in this creation. And if he's pruning you, something needs your fruit. Do you understand that? If God did not prune you, nothing would need any of your yield. But because he prunes you, you are critical. I hope you understand that. If you're being pruned, you are critical. I hope you understand that. I hope you realize that. Don't you ever think, well, I let brother so-and-so in the house, and I think he gave me something. Just stop doing that. It doesn't matter if he gave you anything. Who do you think put it in his heart to come see you in the first place? That's your visitation. That's the Lord looking over you. Now, you don't understand this whole process because you're just like that tree and somebody just cut a chunk off of you and you're crying because it hurts. So do our situations and issues and problems. They are inconvenient. They hurt. They're miserable. We must endure them. We don't know why. We're complaining the entire time. Did you know that when a tree is actually pruned, the electrical impulses coming from that tree change into higher frequencies, you could say? Trees always make noise. If you record the noise or the frequency of the pulses coming off of a tree, right, and you take and condense it 5 months at a time, when a storm comes, the noise of the tree changes about 6 hours before any storm comes. In the morning, the tree's vibrations get higher. In the evening, the tree gets quiet. It's not the sunlight either, because they found that certain times at night, the trees, those frequencies get higher, but they only get higher during blood moons. How funny. It's almost like a language. But we can't hear it because you'd have to hear it over months of time. When pruned, it's almost like that pitch gets incredibly high, which probably means that tree perceives some stimulus from the pruning, like we would perceive pain. Oh, how we just miss such natural things. We do the same thing when we're pruned. I'm telling you this because it seems like when a tree is pruned, it cries. When the sun rises, it starts praising. And when the sun sets, it gets very quiet. Before a storm, it warns. And after a storm, it celebrates. Its trees have even been known. If one tree is severely damaged, do you not know that the other trees around it will sync their frequency to the tree that's damaged, like a mourning? Did you know that? Something in it. And just like a human being, the chemistry of a tree changes based upon the seasons. Your chemistry changes too. We don't observe all things in a practicality where we would recognize such things unless you're a weirdo like me. I happen to believe God's purposed all things, and because I believe that, I search things differently than most people because I do not believe in happenstance. I also believe that God knows exactly what he's doing, so nothing is a mistake. All things are purpose. It just pays us to understand those things. Your troubles in your life are critical. You are going through and have gone through what you had to go through. You're becoming something you may have no idea about. Maybe that's why the scripture says it's not entered into the minds of men what the Lord has in store for us. It's not in our minds. It has not entered into our minds, no more than that tree understands what it is. All we know is that we'll be like him. The Bible also says creation groans for the manifestation of the sons of God. That's you. The manifestation of you. That's the day you become what you're intended to be. The tree does not understand its own importance. It only knows what it experiences. You know what you go through in this world, and you tend to rate things based upon that, but you have no idea of how critical you are in the scheme of things. You weren't sent here by mistake. You just didn't happen to be born. Your life, your being here, who you are, how you are is all purposed. And what the Lord is doing is critical and very delicate. And it's an act of love. Everything that has transpired in your life, no matter how dark you think it is a great act of love. How in the world can the Father get us plants that refuse to grow into blooming plants that yield much fruit? And we already know by reading the New Testament, God desires us to yield perfect fruit, intended fruit. Your troubles are responsible for refining you. Without your troubles, you would not search them the way you search them now. Even if you're close to the edge, close to giving up, that's an even greater intimate time with the Lord. Just because someone is mentally about to give up, so what? I was mentally close to giving up, and so I gave in. It turned into a surrender. How strange. So first know that nothing in your life is the devil just having free reign over your life. Nope. No. That tree does not know what it is. It doesn't know how important it is. A tree breathes, right? It's just breathing. It has no idea we need it to breathe, does it? We need the oxygen. We need that tree to continue to filter carbon. We have no idea, or they have no idea they're doing this. They huddle up and get in groups. And in order for us to continue to live, we need the trees to be healthy. We need plants to continue to yield, animals to continue to reproduce, or we die. Because that's our food, isn't it? But the animal doesn't know that. All it knows is its day-to-day struggle. All it knows is something is resisting what it's trying to do. That's all it knows. But the Lord made you much higher than a tree and an animal. And you have the capacity to search the scriptures and to learn these things about your own life. Now that I've talked about these things, I did so that you won't be so resistive going into this next part. How many of you have heard that scripture, pray that you're worthy to escape all these things and stand before the Son of Man? How many of you have heard that before? I'm sure that everybody has heard that before. I'm sure that everybody has heard that. And I'm also sure that in the quiet of our own time, we have all said, Lord, make me worthy to escape all these things. At first, we thought of the end times like Rambo. The closer it got, we said, nope, I don't want to be a part of this. I hope I'm not here when people start doing some of the terrible things they're doing out there, right? Isn't that what you said? And so eventually people go to that scripture and say, Lord, make me worthy. Because we get tired and we don't want to face what we know men have the potential to cause, and what potential we could face, like volcanism and all these harsh things that come up on the earth. We don't want to be in the middle of that. So there is a scripture right after Jesus talked about prophecy. He said, but pray that you're worthy to escape all these things and to stand before the Son of Man. But here's the funny part. To pray that you're worthy to escape those things, how many people know how to do that? Before you answer, let me share this with you. The Lord said that all of what the Father hath given him, they go to him. If you go to Christ, the Father gave you to Jesus. So you didn't initiate that on your own. He's the author and finisher of your faith. Now follow me on this. Jesus said, all who come to me, the Father hath given me. So you were given to Christ. And he said, I will in no wise cast out. And I will raise him up at the last day. Now keep following me on this, because if you believe in Jesus of Nazareth, you did not do that on your own. That was put in you. That was put in you that you will never be lost. And Jesus said he will raise you up the last day. So he's not going to fail in his work of raising you. Why? Because you keep going to him. You don't want to walk away. He already knows that. Right? Now, to those people, the Lord said, also, he said, pray that you're worthy to escape all these things and to stand before the Son of Man. But he was echoing a sentiment from something else. Because he also said men ought to pray always, didn't he? Remember that? You ought to pray always. In fact, Jesus gave us exclusive instruction to pray a lot. To consult is to pray. To consult is to pray. To talk to him all the time, to pray all the time, to have him at the forefront of your mind. Have him before everything that you would do. To really consult with him, to really search him out. If men ought to always pray and pray without ceasing, it also says. How do you pray without ceasing and live your normal life? That just simply means you're in constant communication with the Lord, which means you make him a part of your everyday life all the time. All the time. But he said, pray that you're worthy to escape all these things and to stand before the Son of Man. Well, wait a minute. Pray that you're worthy to escape all these things. That should tell us instantly that all those things that happen are for what? Are for what? They are qualifiers for us. What's a qualifier for us? These deceitful things that will come is a test for us. That is a great test that comes upon the whole face of the earth to see what we will choose. Instant gratification, or will we in our patience wait for Christ as he said to wait for him? For example, in our sickness, are we going to run to somebody who can heal us first? Or will we, with great patience, wait for the voice of the Lord for proper instruction and guidance? Because the Lord said those who seek to save their lives are going to lose it. That's happening a lot these days because they're probably not truthful about the numbers of people having complications at this present time from several things. But it seems like those who want to save their lives are willing to do anything to perpetuate their own lives. Those who follow Christ, they've already given up their life. They have. I mean, we still have children. And a lot of us stay around because of children, because of those who depend upon us. Because we want to see those whom we love make it all the way through. And so they become a reason for staying, as certainly is true for me. If I ever lose my reason for staying, I'm out of here. I'm not here for myself. I'm only here because my help is needed. The day is no longer needed. I'm out of here. That's the only reason I'm here. I'm not here for myself. And for some reason, the Lord keeps putting people in my life that seem to need my help. I was almost free of that one time. I really was. I believe I could have gone too. But then a person popped up. Happens the same way every single time a person popped up in for their sakes. Because I pour a lot into people. Everything I am, I'll do it to encourage them, to see them through. And when you see people like that, they become my reason for staying. It certainly is not me. You could say I'm at work all the time. That's why I'm here. This test that comes upon the face of the earth, it's going to try that in a lot of people. A lot of people. But it's going to try them because of what, though? If the Lord said, pray that you're worthy to escape all these things, then to become worthy to escape everything that comes means that everything coming has a purpose behind it. If you're worthy prior to these things fully forming, you have passed a test. That's what it means. You have passed a test prior to the testing. Do you understand? If you're worthy to escape, that word worthy means to be worthy of something means you do it. Right? If you're worthy of escaping all the things that will come, there's no need for you to go through the test. And if that is the case, you're not resisting the Lord in any way. Those who go through the test are going through the test because they resist the Lord, and they must be tried. Because no one will ever go to the other side lest they have oil. And everybody will pay for their own oil. That comes with a price. In some way, form, or fashion, you're going to pay the price. But I'm telling you now, some people are paying that price right now. See, that's why you shouldn't complain. If you're found worthy to the time to come, don't expect to live in Disneyland. It means your life is going to be challenging. You may be sick right now. You don't know why. I know why. Because in your heart of hearts, you have said, Lord, I don't think I can endure what's coming. And so guess what? Your life starts falling apart. You get sick and everything else. But if you sit there and complain the entire time, well, you're not going to be found worthy to escape anything. Because you reject it. You reject. See, listen, when the Lord said that we have to be willing to lay down everything for his cause, that's going to be tried of us. You will be tried to see if you will lay down everything. See, but you haven't figured it out. Let me give you a hint. Did Abraham give up his son? Yes or no? Anybody? Did Abraham give up his son? What did God say? He gave Abraham instruction. You put your son and you sacrifice your son, and that's going to show me that you'll be faithful with me. That's what God said, didn't he? That standard began with him. But did Abraham sacrifice his son? Yes or no? The answer is no, he did not sacrifice his son. He most certainly did not. Why? He was willing to. And let me show you this. Because he walked up there, and God wanted to see would he actually do it. God already knew him. Abraham did not know himself. You follow me on this. God already knew. Abraham walks him up there, and he walked him up there. And right when he was about to do it, an angel of the Lord said, no, that's not required. And you know what the Lord said? You know what God said after that? Now I can trust you. I can trust you to follow through with my word, no matter if it costs you everything. I can trust you with it. But why did God do that? Why did he do that? I'm going to tell you why. God gave us an awesome power. You know what it is? The power to choose. God will never force. He'll never force that choice. He won't force it upon us. He will ask. He will try us right to the very end. But he never requires anything. A lot of people present the Father, well, the Father, he needs this, that, and the other. He doesn't need anything from us. He demonstrates that over and over. He will ask everything of you, but he requires nothing. We should have found that out by now. Of all the things that was a person's last that was sacrificed, we should have learned that. The test is to see if you will actually give up what you love the most for his sake. Will you? I mean everything, too. And you know what some of you have done? You don't even understand it. You've been stripped in this world. You've been stripped of a companion. You're running out there trying to get that back. You better slow down. You've been stripped of opportunity. The Lord put you in an isolated position. You're sitting there crying that you're lonely. You better slow down. You're getting tested in all the areas God said he would test a man in by way of his faithfulness. You better slow down, because if you keep desiring things of this world, how can you be found worthy to give up everything for his sake? Why would he want a person to give up everything for his sake in the first place? Because you're royalty. You're joint heirs with Christ. That's why. You're not a normal person. Those who are with him to the point of death, they followed. They kept the faith. They loved not their lives unto death. They were keepers of the commandments. Those are the ones who keep the commandments of God. How do you keep the commandments? By remaining in Christ and not renouncing him. Why would God do all this? Because the beast is coming. Oh, the beast is coming. And a lot of people are not going to make it with the beast. It's kind of like this virus. Listen to me carefully. This virus is a test, and I'm telling you, people are failing left and right. They're just failing. And for me, it's a very sad thing to watch, because a lot of Christians don't understand that everything they do in life and everything they go through is purposed. It is biblical. It is of the faith. It's not like the world, and they don't yet see that. They think they're in a common situation like the world is. No, you're not. If a virus comes upon the face of the earth, it has no power over the righteous except God give it power. And if he allows it to get to the righteous, it's for a choice. It's for further qualification to see what we would do. And what are Christians doing? Some people don't have faith. Paul said, if you enter into a house and the people are eating something and it would offend them if you don't eat that thing, but it's deemed unclean, he said, eat it. Go ahead and eat it. He also said that if you go into a house and something is unclean, but it's free, it's not unclean to you, that's something you do anyway. He said, don't offend the house and don't eat it. Do you understand now? He also said that it's not what goes in the body that defiles a man, but what comes out. That's what he said. He said these things to give us a lesson that God will permit or not permit us to get sick based upon him, not based upon a disease that's on the earth. I'm a living testament to that. I've been around too many sick folk. I have injuries, but no sicknesses. The injuries are a challenge to see if I'm going to still stay on course or not. That's all. Despite the pain, despite the discomfort, I do not complain. Have you noticed? Matter of fact, you wouldn't even know it, would you? Because it has nothing to do with my calling. And by that, every single time, the Lord quickens me to finish his work. But if I ever complain, that pain is going to double. I already know that too. You're tried by the word you speak. That's why you should never boast on what you'll do for God. because you'll surely be tried by it. Pray that you're worthy to escape all these things and to stand before the Son of Man. Well, first of all, no one stands before the Son of Man on your own. Because to stand before the Son of Man is to be judged. Pray that you're worthy to escape all these things and to stand before the Son of Man. Some of you have been put in a position so that you do not have to endure any of what is to come. Some of us will endure what has been and what will come, but we already know that. Because God will always communicate to you what time you're going to be appointed in. He'll never fail to let you know what shall befall you. He will let you know. That's why nothing in your life is truly a surprise. It's almost like it's been expected. If anything were a surprise in your life, it would destroy your faith. It's not really a surprise. You suspect it. Something like that. Even the things you said, well, I can't believe that happened. The truth is, yes, you can. You just didn't want it to happen. You really didn't want it to happen. But you can certainly believe it did happen. But they're all purposed for your growth. And what I'm telling you is that if you're not meant to endure the time to come, then the Lord's going to have you be found worthy to stand before him. And to stand before the Lord means judgment. To be worthy to stand before the Son of Man means you have completely surrendered things of your life. Some of you have gotten a head start, but you're complaining. That's an instant disqualifier, but he's showing you some things. You're complaining and you have no idea you're being set up for a victory. Not one of us will ever say, I did not have the chance. Not one of us will truthfully be able to utter that. No one who stands before him will ever say, I didn't have a chance. And if he said, pray that you're worthy to escape all these things and to stand before him, it also means you're no longer on the face of the earth. You cannot stand before him and still be living in your house at the same time. Because to stand before him is to be absent from the body, is not to be on this earth anymore. That means you've finished your race, and you're not going anywhere until you finish your race. So then that whole thing boils down. Those who are praying to be worthy to escape all those things, those are the ones that are going to finish their race. But we all know to finish a race means we don't resist, we obey. And the Lord makes a quick work of what we have to do. Our time is lengthened because of our disobedience. Because the Lord is long-suffering to usward, desiring that none perish outside of him. If we were to obey, we would fulfill what we've been sent to fulfill and be gone. And we would stand before him. And he would say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Do you see how that works? All of us should pray that we're worthy to escape, because that means we should pray that the Lord work with us even more to get us to see, to open our eyes, to obey him, that we do a finished, complete work, not sit here and complain and try to save our skins, jumping all over the nation. Which place is going to flood? I don't want to be in that place. Do you all see the hypocrisy in our own speech, honestly? We have to iron this out. We can't say we believe in Scripture, yet we're trying to save our own skins all the time. And let me ask you the big question. You ready? Do you trust the Father with your children? Uh-oh. Do you trust him with your children? Do you? Some of you are scared to death. Well, if something happens to me, no one's going to take care of them. That's not true. We act like God doesn't exist if something happens to us. We have to get these things right. But I'm trying to point out to you all, do you see how we really are? It's almost like we're double-tongued. We're double-minded. We have to sort this out. It's good to point things like this out because we can deal with it. Correct? We can deal with it. Because if we deal with it, if we really begin to open it up and to look at it and to see it, that's when you accomplish it. We won't accomplish it. What needs to be accomplished if we continue to dodge it? Face everything. Face everything. You don't have to dodge anything. Face everything. Do it in your real life too. Face everything. Face every phone call. I keep saying this because it's good practice. What you do in the small things, you'll certainly do in the big things. If you're dodging a collector's call because you don't have the funds or something, you're also going to dodge the Lord's call. You're going to come up with some excuse as to why you can't do it. Face everything. Start operating in truth. What would happen if somebody called your number and said, yeah, we want to do so-and-so, but we need, how do you want to make your payment? And you said, well, I don't have it. What are they going to say? It's a phone call. Get it over with. Don't let it linger. Satan utilizes those things to make you feel trapped. You feel trapped. You feel surrounded. You feel so heavy because you're not facing things. The moment you don't know what something is, that's where your nervousness comes from. Haven't we figured this out yet? Face it. Don't run away from it. Because once you face it, you're operating in truth. And once you operate in your truth, your Father in heaven will begin to move on your behalf. You know what he said in the Word? He said, owe no man nothing. Owe no man anything. I'm telling you now, he'll free you from quite a few things if you face it. If you don't face it, how can you be free? If somebody was locked up in a prison, right? They wouldn't open their eyes to acknowledge they were locked up in a prison. How would they go free? Somebody would say, hey, you're locked up in a prison. You need to tell me you don't belong here. Nope, not opening my eyes. I don't want to see it. Well, nothing's going to happen with that situation. But the moment you see, you say, oh, no, I don't belong here. Lord, look where they have me. I don't belong here. Well, it changes everything. You'd be surprised how many Christians are out there. The same phone call you're frightened of, a Christian is on the other line. It's so funny. The Lord orchestrates, Satan orchestrates. He'll give you 5 pieces of bad news that'll really just make your whole month bad. The Lord does too. He orchestrates. He has real Christians just about everywhere. But if you don't face anything, if you continue to run, you're going to continue to have fear. That's what fear wants you to do. You don't have to do that another day. And if you overcome that barrier of fear to where you begin to face things, fear cannot operate in the rest of your life. You only have to face fear with something you're very fearful of, and it will not operate in the rest of your life. It can't interfere anymore because it knows you'll face it. And anybody who faces fear has defeated fear. Fear can only continue to work if you start running from what you're scared of. Face everything. You don't have to live your life that way. Your whole world is about to change. And I'm telling you now, those who are on the bottom are going to be on the top and vice versa. But be warned. I know that everybody's calling for a financial collapse. You all know I don't go with the flow, so let me tell you something. A time will come. Those of you at the bottom are going to find yourselves faced with that impossible thing. An impossible thing. If all of a sudden things flip-flopped, all debts were cleared, but listen to me carefully, all debts were cleared, and all of a sudden, you would have in your possession everything you need to live your life comfortably. What would you do? Would you accept it? Because it would come, you'd have a little bit of it first to get used to it. I'm telling you, this time is coming. A type flourishing that the greatest of folks who are Christian may not understand, a type of flourishing. Many will get used to it. And that's what's going to get them. Listen to me. Because you may find yourself comfortable and say, I finally did it. I can finally relax. And then all of a sudden they're going to say, if you'd like to keep your status, you have to become a citizen of this brand new nation we have begun, which is going to crush people's world. Do you understand the process, guys? So all of a sudden the playing field is leveled. You're not oppressed as you normally were. You get comfortable. You start relaxing. You even buy a couple things to enjoy yourself. But then someone comes and says, well, we have an announcement. Well, what is that? If you want to keep your status, you have to be a citizen of this brand new nation we started. How many people would become a citizen of that brand new nation knowing that you'll have to take an oath and you'll have to recant all other loyalties and oaths? See, you'd be faced with a choice. In one day, you'll be faced with a choice to give up all your comfort and your securities, or keep all your comforts and securities and then renounce all loyalties, all of what you have faith in, to be a part of this new nation that will be free. Listen, that will be free of religion, where only science will rule. Only facts will govern. No more of this faith stuff. How many of you would choose to live in that world that they'll call a world of truth and not the other world of fantasy? Do you know how many Christians will look at their children and say, well, surely God would want me to do whatever I can do to make sure that they live? And I'm telling you now, they're going to join that place. They'll become a part of it. See, the way you're looking at it, you see all these people on the earth and you say, well, I don't see how everybody can all of a sudden, the playing field is going to be leveled. Oh, yes, it will be, because most of the people that you see, many of the Christians that you know, they're going to be gone, but some will be back here. See, we have calamities coming. Everybody's not going to survive them. A great many are going to be gone. We have mutated viruses floating all over the place. Many will perish from that. Some will be left. And those people that will be left are going to go through a great test. The people who are passing away now, they have finished their race. If COVID-19 were to take anybody who's a Christian, a real Christian right now, they've finished their race. They were worthy to escape the rest of those things. Ha! They were worthy. My goodness. We can't become skittish and paranoid right now, because we're children of faith, and the Lord is doing something in your life. A mighty work He's doing. He really is doing a mighty work. By the way, the new nation has a name, and the computers are set. The program was introduced in 2015. It'll be operational soon enough. It's AI-based. Our whole chip architecture is very different from what it is now. Your authentication process, believe me, you can't fool this system. It will know you. It will intimately know you. It'll also know what you're predisposed to do. It'll also know where your loyalties lie. It's going to know if you're lying or not. And it will get rid of those who do lie. Oh, it's set. And it will blow your mind. It's not meant for every one of you. It's not meant for every one of you to even live in that world. Calamities will come. And we'll soon enter in the days where the scriptures will be true, where it says the living will envy the dead. But you're not appointed to the wrath of God. But somehow or another, you're going through a test, whether it be right now in your life. During the great time of testing, you're going through a test. That's why no one should ever complain about what's happening in their life, but face all things and seek the Lord with all things. Seek the Lord. Those who are to be here during that time and potentially will perish and be isolated, they're going to call it. The Lord has forewarned a great many. Those he has forewarned, they never will complain. They still have a work to do even in that time. They have to witness, so they have to be here. But they still won't endure his wrath. All believers are kept from his wrath. He'll never have you face his wrath if you belong to him. But you will be tested. And the test is based in that choice. Will you, with all of what you are, will you love the Lord your God with everything that you are? That means he is first above all things in your life. It's so easy for me because of understanding. For example, a mother may say, how can you love the Lord above your own children for real? How can you do that for real, in truth? It's easy. Those children are only alive by will of the Lord. They're already protected by him, and they belong to him. You've just been given the job of overseeing them for a little while. In truth, those children that you had are truly your brothers and your sisters. You gave birth to their bodies. You did not give birth to their souls. They are, in fact, your brother and your sisters. And the Lord, he protects them. If you trust the Lord with your life, trust him with everything in your life. When you really trust him, you have no problem with his will and your children. Because he will always look over a child. He will always take care of babes and fools. And the angels of the children are constantly in front of the Father. The problem is, through your qualifications of your youth when you were abused and mistreated and rejected, you think your children are going to go through the same thing wrong. You were the seed breaker. You went through that so that curse would be broken, that seed would be broken. Because of you, they won't go through it. But they will go through something, and you won't be able to help them with it. Because all of us will go through something. They are to be further qualified. And in that you have to trust the Lord. But if you really love him, then you automatically know there's no way he would ever allow a child to be corrupted. He will not suffer it. See, everybody's going to have a choice. That means they have to make it to a certain age. And should he take one early, then that was a vessel of his direct usage. That's where you have a lot of angels and you don't even know it because they don't speak a lot. Angels can come in the form of children, and they don't stay a long while. They stay just a little bit to perform something, and then they're gone. Normally it is to sow seeds of love to the parents, to wipe out the existence of darkness that was embedded in family lines. A child is born into a family and touches everybody and passes away. It changes everybody in the family. It causes them to have a bad taste in their mouth of darkness, and they start getting darkness out of the way. It changes everything when a child comes into somebody's life and then they go early. Sometimes the Lord will take someone. They won't be appointed a long life here, only a portion. And then he takes them away. He will spare them from the harm to come. The Lord is kind, not evil. And everything that happens in your life is an act of love, not hatred. Because he wants to see you through to the end. He is the author and finisher of your faith. Praying that you're worthy to escape all these things is to be obedient now. And if you have troubles and situations in your life, you're being qualified for that now. So be thankful, not complaining. The Israelites wandered around in the wilderness. They never knew they were being filtered and delivered at the same time, did they? And they were being, had they not walked 40 years, they wouldn't have been qualified to do what the Lord had them do. And even upon their full deliverance, they weren't able to maintain it. So this time, when God's children are delivered, it will be into the hands of Christ forever. I hope that scripture takes on new meaning. Because by the words of Jesus, some of you, that process has already begun. Try to see your life in truth by the scripture, not in hypocrisy. Let's take hypocrisy and throw it out the door. That begins by us facing everything. Not to face it with an attitude, but to face it with truth.